experience a supreme pleasure, that of being Salvador Dali. These are the words of artist Salvador Dali. Many people are familiar with his paintings. He's most famous for his images of soft or melted clocks. And it's my hope that I can share with you some of the more unique points of his background, which are as unique as his work. I would like to discuss the early years of Salvador Dali and two time periods in his life, that being from 1922 to 1926 and 1929 to 1931. And finally, I'd like to share with you some of his endeavors outside of painting. Firstly, I'd like to share with you a little bit about his early years, which were greatly influenced by his family. Dali was born in Spain in 1904. When Dali was 5 years old, his parents took him to his dead brother's grave, who died 9 months before Dali was born, and they told him that he was his brother's reincarnation. And Dali had actually grown to believe this. Because of the belief that he was his brother's reincarnation, his parents gave in to his every whim, and he was very spoiled and had a terrible temper and was prone to extreme tantrums. He used to hide excrement around his house just to force his family to look for it. He would wet his bed until he was 8 years old for the sheer fun of it. And much of this behavior just stemmed from his desire to want to be the center of attention all the time. His father was a lawyer, and his mother was very nurturing and very artistic, and she really fostered his creativity. He had a very close relationship with his mother. His father was a very strict disciplinarian, so his relationship with his father was very strained. He often competed against his father for his mother's attention. Salvador Dali had a younger sister named Anna Maria, who was to serve as his only model up until the time that he met his wife. When Dali was 16 years old, his mother died of breast cancer, and it really devastated him. His father later remarried and ended up marrying his deceased wife's sister. So Dali was kind of okay with the fact that his father married his aunt, because he really had a great love and respect for his aunt. The second point that I'd like to discuss is the period of 1922 to 1926. In 1922, he had enrolled in the Academia de San Fernando in Madrid, and it's right about that time that he had begun to grow his famous mustache, and he began to develop his personal style. He wore clothes that were popular in the late 1800s. He also began to experiment with different art styles, including Cubism. Cubism is an art form in which the subject is analyzed, dissected, and reassembled in an abstract form from various and multiple viewpoints in random angles. In 1923, he was expelled from the school for organizing a protest against his instructor, but later allowed to return the following year. In 1926, just before his final exams, he so egotistically boasted that none of his instructors were qualified to judge his art, so he was ultimately expelled before finals. This is the same year that he painted The Basket of Bread, which clearly shows the level of mastery that he had achieved in painting. After he was expelled from school in 1926, he began to experiment in Surrealism. And Surrealism is an art style which stresses dreamlike or subconscious and non-rational significance of the images. Dali actually called his painting hand-painted dream photographs. The next thing that I'd like to talk about would be the time period from 1929 to 1931. And it's in 1929 that Dali met his wife, Gala, and she was basically to become everything for him. She became his model, his mentor, his muse, his business partner. She was 10 years older than him, and when he first met her, he would laugh uncontrollably every time he tried to talk to her. He was just so giddy and lucky. In order to gain her attention, he waxed his armpit and dyed it blue. He stuck red flowers in his hair. He smeared goat excrement all over his body. And Guess it worked. He got her attention because she left her husband to be with Salvador Dali. She was actually a stabilizing factor in his life, and Dali had said of Gala, and I quote, "Without Gala, divine Dali would be insane." He officially joined the Surrealist movement in 1929, and in 1931, he painted his most famous piece, which is The Persistence of Memory. Lastly, I'd like to discuss just a few of Dali's endeavors outside of painting. In 1939, slideshow, he exhibited The Dream of Venus at the 1939 World Fair. The exhibit was hailed as an installation in art and performance that would profoundly influence the direction of art in the world. Between 1941 and 1970, Dali created 39 jewelry pieces. The most famous is the Royal Heart, which you see pictured there. And it's made of gold, rubies, diamonds, and it was constructed to be like a real heart. Let's see. Dali also worked with famous filmmakers such as Alfred Hitchcock. He's most well known for, as far as his film projects, probably the dream sequence that he filmed for 1945 Spellbound by Alfred Hitchcock. He also collaborated in 1945 with Walt Disney on a short film called Destino. The short film was lost in an archive, a Disney vault, and was found in 2003 and was actually released then, and it's actually available on YouTube. In conclusion, I hope that I was able to share with you some of the more unique points of Dali's background. I spoke about his early years, 2 important time periods of his life, and I shared with you some of his endeavors outside of painting. Dali once said, "Painting is an infinitely minute part of my personality." And it's my hope that through this speech I was able to demonstrate that.